On the program today, voter registration is on. How will this affect employers? How will this impact employees? And how will company productivity be affected as employees will be going to register for voting? We also look at the next normal as opposed to the new normal. Find out why financial advisors are saying so. This is Strictly Business. I'm JudyNgulube. We start with our chat focus for today. Voter registration kicked off this week, and it had a little bit of problems here and there, but our focus is not that. We want to talk about the part of the employees and the employer. The employer more especially, because you've employed people, they're going to take days off to start registering to vote. How would this affect various companies and productivity? I am excited because I'm going to be talking to the executive director from the Zambia Federation of Employers, Mr. Harrington Chibanda, via phone. Okay, so employers and employees, when it comes to issues of voter registration, how would that impact productivity and normal operations?
Well, the side stories, the stories we've heard about long queues, such that when people go to register, they're taking long. Otherwise, as employers, we are mindful for a civil right that we have to play and encourage our employees. It is not too much of time to release employees to go and register as voters, but it only becomes a concern if it takes too long. I know some employers have actually come up with schedules in the workplace where they release employees at different times to go and register as voters. So if, for instance, an employee is given a day off to go and register and fails because of the long queue, and then asks that he or she goes back the following day, when another employee is supposed to go, then that will definitely affect issues of productivity.
How are you? How are you going around this with your members? How are you going to tackle this?
No, we are simply encouraging members to come up with schedules. The whole point is that they should plan, just like we plan for other events, that not all employees can go to register on one day, but they can take 10 on different days. And that's what I'm talking about, the time that is to be spent when an employee goes to do the registration. We are hoping that it will be a reasonable period of time that one will take, even if it's a day, as long as the employee doesn't go back the following day, so that it gives chance to another employee to go. So that's what we're discussing. In fact, let me use this opportunity first to urge all our employers that it's a civic right for employees to go and be registered as voters, and so they should be given the time to go and register. But at the same time, we are calling on the Electoral Commission to know that people are working and they are taking days off. So when they go for registration, they must be attended to on the first day that they go, and of course, within a reasonable time frame.
All right, thank you. So we don't see any potential impact on productivity, do we?
In terms of negative or positive?
Both.
No, I mean, the negative impact will be there if the employees take too long in the registration process. But for now, it's difficult for me to ascertain that it has impacted negatively or positively. We don't anticipate any negative impact. We anticipate that things will be okay as they have been, that there will be no impact arising from the absence of an employee who has gone to register as a voter, because it will be a short time which will actually be taken care of. But if those employees go today, they don't register, then they go back tomorrow, then that will definitely result into a negative impact on productivity, because we are then now going to have employees staying away from work for a longer period of time, which is not supposed to be the case.
All right. I appreciate you coming through, Mr. Chibanda.
Thank you very much and most welcome.
All right, thank you so much. On our business myth or fact, we concentrate on our environment. And of course, when you think of the environment, you're thinking, well, not directly impacting us, but when it comes to today's world, everything the ozone layer does will affect your health. And if your health is affected, it will affect you as a human who's going to offer productivity for what we need to move in industries, in companies, in corporate entities. So today on our business myth or fact, we talk about the issue of second-hand cars and what effect they have on our environment. To what effect is this harmful? Is it harmful or not? We caught up with Director Planning, Information and Research from ZEMA, Mr. Maxwell Nkoya.
I'll tackle it from, I think, 3 angles of sustainability. First, we look at the economy itself, then the social, and then we'll talk about the environment in particular. So vehicles serve a very critical purpose. In fact, for you to come here, or for me to be here, I use the vehicle. So they are very effective in reducing time of movement from one place to another. But just as any product, like if you buy a drink, you find best before. There's always an expiry date to any product. So now when we talk about used vehicles, we will contextualize it to old vehicles. Mostly from the economy side, if you insure something, usually the value depreciates to almost 0 at 5 years. So, but with market value, we always can still use a vehicle even after 10 years. And what is also critical is the servicing, how we maintain our vehicles. Now, when a vehicle clocks beyond 5 years, going to 10 years and above, there's what is called the fuel-air ratio. So because of this too much movement, it has reached its end of life, then the combustion worsens. And that's why you see some vehicles emitting so much that they even prevent you from seeing what is coming. And that's where now we get concerned, because not only is it affecting society, but also your health, my health, because we are within the breathing range of where those gases have been emitted. So they do have an impact on the environment. If they are poorly maintained, they will emit pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, and also carbon and carbon monoxide, which are for adverse impact on the climate. So from that angle, they do have an impact. But then, interestingly, the UN released a report that is called the United Nations Report on Impact of Export of Used Vehicles to Developing World. The key finding from that report is that their exporting countries capitalize on lack of standards on our end as the importing countries. So they can export a vehicle which is very old and also polluting more, which does not have roadworthiness, and then we may also accept it. So the report indicated that we need to bridge that gap. Then another aspect is that unfortunately Africa takes about 40% of used vehicles, they come to Africa. So you can imagine Zambia being part of the continent we are affected. On the social side, Judy, we also have concerns, because if a vehicle combustion system is ineffective, it means we are spending more on the fuel. So instead of using maybe usually there's what we call fuel economy. The average good vehicle will use about 9 to 10 liters per 100 kilometers. That's very good fuel efficiency. But some of the vehicles that may be on the road may go as low as 5. We actually did a study in 2018. The Zambian average is about 7.4 liters for every 100 kilometer traveled. So meaning we are spending so much on fuel rather than investing it in something. So we may buy a vehicle cheaply, but then it's draining our pocket. So that's on the social side, that's a business tip, that the better the vehicle, the more sustainable it is to use, and the better for the economy, better for one's health. Remember, the president also is pushing, and which we as an agency are working with him to make sure we have a clean, green, and healthy environment.
The next gentleman that we will be talking to on his socials has been talking about a term called coronalization. What is that all about? Financial advisor Maxwell Piri is talking that issue on most of his social media platforms. We caught up with him to just find out what this is.
That's a concept that I brought up when Corona just started. Coronapreneurship, it's the way the market is going. Market should be market-driven. So when you talk about market-driven, we're looking at how the global market is moving. So coronapreneurship, it's businessmen who are actually making money amid this coronavirus. So what we're trying to put across is that, according from this concept, is that people are complaining that there is no money. But I would like to submit to you, do you know how many people have become millionaires during the coronavirus?
How?
Wow. You see, that's one thing that I'd like actually to bring so open to you. Look for a challenge in the community. That's what money is. Look for a challenge in the community. That's what money. If you identify a challenge, you make your money. Today's business was yesterday's challenge. So look for a challenge. So you're asking me how? There are a lot of challenges amid this coronavirus. I'll give one simple example. Do you know that lemon fruit, the lemon fruit, it's no longer something that you can just find on the market easily? Because doctors have told us that if you take lemons and ginger, you'll be able to clean the system. Lemons have been moving at the very fastest rate. Why? Because they're resolving the challenge of coronavirus. It's simple things like this that you can go to supermarket and buy lemons and make your money. You go to supermarket and buy ginger and make your money.
He also talks about the term next normal as opposed to what we are calling the new normal. We find out why he is differentiating this in this way.
Now, let me tell you one thing. Do you realize that globally, the most richest people have gone beyond rich? I'll give an example, a guy called Bezos. He's the owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. It's called Jeff Bezos. Amazon has increased his net worth to $48 billion US between March and June 2020. Simple reason. No one was going to the shop. So we were doing what they call the e-commerce. I'll come to that. The owner of Zoom, a young boy, has made his net worth from March to June 2020 this year by $2.5 billion US. The last one is called Steve Ballmer, the former CEO for Microsoft. He's made his money to about $15.7 billion US. Now, if you look down, all these are digital industries. What does it tell you? It trickles down to Africa, to Zambia. It tells you that the person who are dealing in laptops, because Zoom, it's a teleconferencing software. People are dealing in laptops in Zambia. They've minted. Smartphones. Everyone wants to be on the phone now because everyone tells you can meet over the phone. People tell you, I don't have money to buy smartphones or a laptop. Look, smartphones have got protectors. You can start with 500 kwacha to buy protectors because everyone is touching a phone and phones, they're not protected, they're breaking. You can use a phone. Batteries, because everyone is on phone. So these smartphones are losing power every now and then. So people want to replace their batteries. You can start with less than 1,000 kwacha.
All right, you are still watching Strictly Business. Still to come on the show, let us meet Ruth Lungu on our Binet segment, who sells groundnuts and cassava but has seized the opportunity when it comes to what the weather is presenting to us, the heat. And she's gone into selling freezing. We talk to Bob Nkosha as he tells us how he's going to break down the funds that he has received as an artist for empowerment.
The continent, the fact that we're able to attract investment, there's actually a second gold rush.
Which of the foreign ministers? Which of the foreign ministers would you marry, get into business with, have as a guest for dinner at your house? So let's start. Whom would you marry first amongst the three?
My wife is watching. That was very easy.
I would marry that one.
After
After 9, a late night cocktail of current affairs, business, and everything in between. Less with humor. After 9 with Brian Mulamba. Good TV taking you to bed. Exclusive to TV1. You're still watching Strictly Business. And now we often think that to apply innovation to a business is to go all out with something leaning to ICT. It can simply be adding ingenuity or initiative to your business. One of those ways of taking innovative stance when it comes to investments is by cleverly involving an investor. Prospero, Zambia tells us how.
So investment is actually a big part of developing the private sector. Because for the private sector to develop well, there are a number of aspects that have to happen. And I mean, you're talking about businesses, and you're talking about being able to build the capacity, being able to create linkages and connections and different things like that. But also, in addition to all those good things that we do around providing technical assistance, businesses need money. And that's where investment comes in. And if businesses are fortunate enough to get an investor that actually invests in their business, not just financially, but also giving them the linkages and capacity, then that brings businesses in a better light. And that's part of the work that Prospero is doing. I think one of the things is, because we've been working in the private sector space for quite a number of years now, is we understand that depending on where businesses are and depending the size of businesses, they have different requirements. I mean, there are some requirements that are across the board, but there are others that are different. So for example, if you are a complete startup, raising investment from international investors is probably not where you should be. You'd probably be looking at raising investment from family or friends. You'd probably be looking at raising investment from what you call angel investors, who are investors that are willing to put a little bit of money just to get things started. You know, they'll be ready to put a couple of thousands of dollars, maybe give you some hand-holding support. Then from there, as your business begins to grow, you might need a little bit more money. Then you might get some grant support, or you might get somebody a bank loan or whatever it is. And then when you get to a certain point when you've developed your business, and are really looking to grow, then you might now need outside investment, which is more commercial capital, where you're now talking about millions of dollars. And at that point, you're a real company, you've already established your business model, and what you really need now is growth capital.
Do you think you're good? Maybe about 10.
For us, the kind of criteria that we look at when we're looking for businesses that we think are investment ready, we look at the number of years that you've been operating as a business, what your average turnover has been for at least a couple or 3 years. We also look at the kind of industry you're operating in, and then we do an initial assessment just to see at what stage your business is in. And then if you do qualify, then we push you to the next stage where we have a thorough assessment. So it depends on what level you're at. So if you're a business that has raised before, it becomes a bit easy because you've gone through these processes before. You have the necessary documentation that investors require. So for those, it doesn't take much time. But then if you're raising investment for the first time, it means you would have to be starting from scratch. So that will take a bit of time. But then from experience, the investment readiness process takes about 3 to 5 months, basically, for you to get your entire documentation and list onto the platform. But the actual conversation with the investors is one that takes a bit of time because it's huge sums of money. So there's a lot of time that is spent on due diligence and the actual discussions, and for you to actually agree on a deal that is convenient for you as a business and for them as an investor.
I think a lot of people are more familiar with the traditional type of financing, where you go to a bank, you go to an MFI, you get funding through village banks and all that type of thing. But impact investing is slightly different from the normal investing, because it's investing into a business for a social or environmental return plus a commercial return. So the typical investing is basically an investor would be looking at what do I get back when I put money into this business. But for an impact investor, they're saying, okay, what do I get back financially? But also, what sort of social and environmental benefit do I get? For instance, if you're talking about a company that's looking to raise investment and they're working working in something like agriculture and processing some sort of food.
Let us meet Ruth Lungu on our Binet segment, who sells groundnuts and cassava but has seized the opportunity when it comes to what the weather is presenting to us, the heat, and she's gone into selling freeze it.
6 hours nikafika niasha remote kamilisi. But ipokomboka na 500 kwenda 600. Business yanga inishita ni shoka mili nipika mili hizi na zinango ni mashoka tute na sharp. Adhani ngaona gwangala like mongo October so zuwa yamba no dako ma freeze it ngana ndrama no dako na madrink. Hii business yanga nimbikisa kwa mene siba kulisi. Kudina weva fani kashita kwa something bakuta zikoza ukangono. Ndaba ine muri business number 2009. But vena shitamo ndiye vambili muri business amene. Like kusonge na nyumba kupeleka vana ku skulu tandi za makolo through vamine ivenishi. Okay, shitengera ngati wakala na vesi. Kulimbikira kwako. Yoka nonganegese kuti ende pasogolo. Nganduwe mundu olelera sunga ende pasogolo because una ulesi. But pakushita chintu pako chisapa ulesi pakutupeze profit in life yako. Because if wachita life ya muntu ni vambili. Sinchitoyeka within the business na even shit. So nuzako wamene wakwanisa kuyasa pakangono kane kaja mulungu amajalisa. Sikufa niko ngala chabe mundu wa moyo iyayi. Ufanye kandu wolimba nayo osakira vochita vako. Vamdala vasevenza ulosi vasevenza nayo ofani kati uposa kona kangono kuchitati zikavuta mutandiza nako pa nyumba. So limbikisa wamene wakwanisa azimai vasalapuke vayambe kusakira ko vochita. I'm a Ruth Lungu. This is my Binet.
Most recently, Bob Nkosha was among the 152 artists that received the Presidential Arts Development and Empowerment Scheme that has a total of 30 million kwacha. I talked to him via Skype. Bob, how are you?
Hi, Judy. How you doing?
I'm fine. Your voice sounds like it's already got dollars and kwachas.
The dollar signs are visible.
All right. Now tell me, how much of the 30 million kwacha did you receive specifically?
729.
All right. That's a huge sum. I understand the plan is to create a theater or studio of sorts in Kalulushi.
Yes, basically we're creating a studio where we already started building a studio. So the cash injection is basically for us to do all the finishing touches and everything in terms of creating a TV, sort of a video studio, so to say, because like I'll give an example. ZNBC now in Kitwe has got their video studios are now got fixtures and fittings. Yeah. So you find that programs like the youth programs that they normally would broadcast from the studios is unable to be done. So we're sort of offering an alternative space to have studios that are going to have audience-filled programming, well, just programming that or programs that will have an audience inside the studio.
All right, great. That sounds very good. To what extent will these finances help with that project?
Well, we've done all the infrastructure already. We've done all the steel work for the building. So now with the injection, the finishing touches, things like the office block setup and the studio itself, the last touches of the studio. All so right. We bought an old workshop, which was an old mine workshop in the plant area, which is called the Kalushi Business Park. So that's what we're using now to which we're renovating. The audio studio is already done. So we've been recording voiceovers from the audio studio. Now it's just the video studio where we're now finishing off because we want to specialize in sitcoms. I'll tell you what Jeff Staley told me once, that people talk about the art of business, but very few people know the business of the arts. And I must say, it takes government to take the first step before the private sector comes in and realizes that there's an industry that can make money. So government coming in and saying, look, We trust this industry. It's budding. It's an industry that has started on its own. There was no capital injection. No banks was giving us money, but we were working within our means and within our own capital and within our own finances. That we built up ourselves. Now, government has realized that, look, this is an industry that has just come from nowhere and it's making sense.
That is a wrap. That is all we had for you on Strictly Business. Join us next week again for more information on business and the corporate world. On behalf of the entire crew for Strictly Business, I'm JudyNgulube.